Alright, so I'm going to show you how to make this picture. It's my head, it looks like I'm being cooked in a pot. And you can actually slightly see some steam coming up too, and I'm going to show you how to make that steam effect. So let's get right into it. I have taken 3 different pictures. All of them have been taken on manual mode in my camera. All of them have the exact same shutter speed, the same aperture, the same white balance, and the same focusing point. So I used manual focus. And, of course, you can actually see in the reflection of the pot that this picture was taken with the camera on a tripod, which is absolutely necessary for this to happen. Now, actually, I do want to show you something really quick. These pictures weren't absolutely perfectly aligned when I put them on the computer. As you can see, whoops, here they are. They're not, you can see that the camera did sort of jiggle a little bit um, when I put the pictures on the computer. This one especially, it's just kind of off just by a little bit. It's kind of rotated. So what I did to make them perfectly in line with each other is I selected all of them. And by the way, I held shift and then I clicked down to select all of them at once. You can also just hold on control and select them one at a time if you want. So I selected all of them and then I went to edit, auto align layers. And then I left it on auto and clicked OK. And now when I turn this layer on and off, you can see that it's now aligned perfectly. So if you come across a situation where if even you took your pictures on a tripod, you can always use that auto align feature just to fix it up a little bit. Next, I just grabbed my rectangular marquee tool, made a selection, and cropped the edges out so you didn't get those little edges. And to do that, I'm clicking image crop, just like that. Alright, so let's get into this. Let's see, we have just the pot layer, then we have the hands, and then we have the head. So let's start off by making a layer mask on the hands. And what we want to do is delete everything except my fingers here. So I'm going to select the picture and deselect the layer mask, sorry. And so we're working with the actual picture because we're going to make a selection. And I'm going to just try out using the quick selection tool right now and see if that works, and if it doesn't, then I'm going to move on to the pen tool. And let's see if this works. I don't think it's going to work. Well, it might actually. Let's see if I can get in these little tiny crevices here. I'm not sure. That's not coming out exceptionally well. I mean, it did with this part right here, but yeah, I'm going to use the pen tool for this because that just is not working the best. So I'm going to grab the pen tool. Whoops. Here's the pen tool right here. I'm going to zoom in just so I can get really close up and I can see what the heck I'm doing. I'm just going to make a selection around my fingers. Now I've reached the bottom of my fingers and I'm pretty sure that I do not need to mask in perfectly the bottom of my fingers. So what I'm going to do is just skip this part and go up back to the original location to where my first point was. Just going to click that right there. And now the path is closed. And this took a while to make. It took about, I don't know, 1 or 2 minutes, maybe 3 minutes. So now we have this, but now we need to make a selection out of this path. So let's right click and click make selection. And now the feathering, you do not want to feather this particular thing by 1 pixel. I would feather this by about 0.3 pixels in this situation. Usually though, with like maybe larger selections, I would do maybe 1 or 2 pixels. So that is our selection. Now what we're going to do Let's actually delete that layer mask because we actually don't need that right now. But if we get rid of that and then we just make a layer mask, like a new layer mask, when we had our selection, it automatically makes a layer mask out of our selection. So there we are. It looks like there's hands boiling in the pot now. So now let's add the head. Okay, so based on this mask right here, I just masked out the fingers. Well, with this head layer, what we want to do is mask in my head and mask everything out that's not my head. So I'm gonna just try duplicating this layer mask and putting it up on the top layer right here and see how that works. So to duplicate this layer, I'm just gonna hold down my Alt key, click the layer mask, and then drag it back up. And that just duplicates it. See, now you can see that, okay, everything is masked in that area. But I want the opposite of this. So what I'm going to do is click the layer mask and then click, or rather press Control I on the layer mask. And that inverted the layer mask. So now we have this part. All we got to do now is mask in the pot back in. So let's do that right now. It's going to grab a brush here and just paint the pot back in. Alright, there we go. There it is. And that took a while too, because you need to kind of go into those details and fix them up. And now you can see here, look at this. The exposure of one of the pictures was just slightly brighter than the other one. Now I don't know if you can see this on camera, but I was using a hard brush and you can actually see that there's a line here. And it's hardly visible, but it's still there. And if you want to make it look like real and like it wasn't photoshopped, what you can do is grab a soft brush and just to get rid of those hard edges. So now we can just fade in that area and no one will know. So I'm just going to fade in that edge that I could make out there. Alright. Another thing you could do is just make the picture brighter than what it was before. And that works sometimes. You just have to fiddle around with it. Okay, so there we go. But now I have duplicate pots here. So I'm just going to grab my brush and just mask out this duplicate pot because I don't want that there. Alright, there is the picture. Now what we're going to do is flatten all these layers into one layer. So we're going to go to Layer, Flatten Image. That combined all of them. So now all those layers are now one. Now what we're going to do is we're going to go down to the bottom, click this little Create New Layer button, and we're going to add some steam just kind of coming up from the pot. So to do that, I'm going to grab a color and make it white, grab my brush tool, and I'm going to put the hardness around, I don't know, set 80%. It doesn't matter too much. And I'm going to leave the size about 100 pixels. So I'm just going to draw the steam here. And we're going to make this look real in a second. Okay. Let's work with that and see how that works. So let's go to Filter, Blur, Gaussian Blur. And now you can see what I'm trying to do here. And now in this particular situation, I think now that I know what it's going to look like, I'm going to go back and do that over again. Because I just realized that those are kind of spread out too much, and I need to make them a little bit smaller. So that's what I was thinking. I was thinking maybe let's just kind of spread them out and make it more random and see how that works. Okay, there we go. And let's actually lower the opacity to about 50% for right now, and we can adjust it later. So back to Filter, blur, Gaussian blur, and let's see how that turns out. That is looking more realistic. Right about there. Oh yes, that's perfect. That's what I wanted. So, and then you can go back to the opacity and adjust it how you like it. There it is off, and here it is on. So that's just a little thing you can add in there just to make it a tiny little bit more real. And you can, I have the opacity on 30% here, so the steam is not very noticeable. And it wouldn't be in real life either. That's a thing that I love to do with Photoshop, is to make it as real as possible.